You can go there later. And it starts in verse 13. And the scene opens up with what we're told is two disciples. Now, these two disciples are approximately 7 miles outside of Jerusalem, where Jesus is crucified, he is buried, and on the third day he will rise again. Now, as we open up our story in Luke 24, these two disciples, we know one of them was named Cleopas. That's a throwback name for sure. It means glory to the Father, or glory of the Father. We know there's two guys. One guy is Cleopas, we'll call him Cleo. And Cleo and his buddy are on a pathway 7 miles outside of Jerusalem, and they're en route to a village. They're discussing, frankly, the biggest news in town, the biggest news surrounding Jerusalem, and that is that Jesus, the leading candidate for the prophesied Messiah for thousands of years to the Jewish people and to the nation of Israel, they thought he had arrived and his name was Jesus, but of course, criminals. Cleo and his buddy were on a street walking and talking. A stranger approaches them and says, "What are you guys talking about?" And they said, "What do you mean, what are we talking about?" "We're talking about what everyone's talking about." That basically today's version would be like, "What are you guys talking about?" And the response would be, "It's called COVID-19, right?" It's like, it's in every conversation. It doesn't matter if you're talking about sports, it doesn't matter if you're talking about fashion, style, politics. It's just COVID has infiltrated everything. It is, if you will, the talk of the town. So it was with Jesus. They looked at this stranger that approached them. Now there's 3 men walking, and they said, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem that doesn't know the events of the last few days? We'll fill you in. Here's what happened. We listen to the words now. We were hoping," they said to the stranger, we were hoping that this guy Jesus was the Messiah we have been waiting for and anticipating for. We were hoping. We were hoping." They go on and say, in fact, we got a few of the ladies, they cruise down to the tomb where he's been buried. They're literally telling the stranger. Now what they don't know is the stranger is Jesus, and they don't recognize him. And we were, hoping, and ladies went down there and the tomb's empty, but, it's been 3 days, and somebody must have just moved the body. And of course, as the story unfolds, and we'll pick it up in a few minutes, these guys eventually, over a meal, realize that they had been talking with Jesus. But I want to underscore in this story, this opening story, here are 2 disciples. Are they 2 of the 12? Most likely not, but there's not a lot of these disciples, and so these are men that undoubtedly were a little bit closer to the journey, a little bit closer to the story, a little bit closer to the cross, a little bit closer to the teachings of Jesus, and yet notice what they express. You can almost hear it, if you will. They are telling Jesus, "We had hoped." Well, we had hoped that this was kind of the one, but I guess not. We had hoped. You ever been there? I mean, with God. You ever been there? You ever been talking to somebody and they're like, what are you talking about? "Well, I had this vision, for my life, and I had this dream, and well, it's been 25 years. I kind of hoped it would be like, in my 30s. I hoped in my 40s it would, and now I'm in the second half of my life, and well, I just hope, maybe it'll happen to my kids." And there it is. Hope deferred. Dreams delayed. Wishes stalled. And what are we left with? Well, at least a bitter taste in our mouth. At least a kind of a sickness in the soul. Your heart just gets sad. Have you ever experienced hope deferred? Well, the answer to that is a resounding yes. Why I think you may be sad, and I'll say this, and hopefully this piques your curiosity. I think we have got faith and hope confused. And it makes sense that we have. So I want to define for you in the next few minutes what faith is and what hope is. And I want to ensure that you always keep them together. I think we get our hopes up naturally. I think hope is an essential part of life. I think hope is absolutely imperative. What is life without hope? I've said it a million times. 1 Corinthians 13 says these three things remain: faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. There are three essentials you need for the human existence. You've got to have some faith, you got to have some hope, and you got to experience and give love. That's living, right? 1 Corinthians 13 just bottom lines it. So hope is essential. This anticipation, this expectation, this desire, these dreams, these wishes. Like, trust me, I am the guy, I'm the pastor, the speaker, the preacher in your life. Like, let's get our hopes up. Let's expect, let's anticipate. I look into the future of church at home and our community and church home and what God's doing around the world, and I get my hopes up. A lot of people live a different way. They'll tell you, don't get your hopes up. If you never get your hopes up, you'll never be sad or sick in your heart. So just kind of, live at an even keel, at an even level. Don't get too excited. Don't expect too much. And I've even